I'm gonna be honest, I still think 7 Deadly Sins Origin looks amazing. The combat looks incredible, the world is huge, and honestly, it still has the potential to be one of the biggest anime games out there. But lately I've been seeing people getting more and more worried about the game, and after diving deep into the discussions of the community, I think they might have a point. To be fair though, the hype for this game didn't come out of nowhere. The game itself felt very ambitious. It's a 7 Deadly Sins game, so the IP was gonna be amazing as well. A lot of people that never played the gacha were interested in trying the game. The way you build the characters with 3 different weapon types felt super good, to be honest. The world design looks good. The traversal around the map is okay with the mounts, etc. It gives something to grind for. And all in all, it was just a very ambitious project. I think it's safe to say it's even to the point where people who normally don't care about 7 Deadly Sins as an anime were willing to try out the game. All goods come with bads as well, and unfortunately this game is not an exception. The first issue that the community has been very vocal about is the content pacing. The game has reached a state where it's just very grindy, very repetitive, and honestly it's boring to play, and that's the last thing you want to do for a game. You don't want to play a game that is boring, you don't want to feel like you're doing a chore. Me personally, I only log in because I feel like the fear of missing out. I just want to go there, I want to do my dailies, I want to get my rewards. I have the Leonis card pass, so I want to get the daily things, I don't want to lose them. I want to finish up the battle pass, but honestly that's about it. I don't feel the need to grind a boss, I don't need to feel to grind for a dungeon. I can beat the content in the game, and after you reach that point, there's nothing to do, honestly. There's zero. The content pacing is a big issue. We just had an update where Clotho dropped and nothing new came with it. The events feel stale. There's nothing right now in the game to do. And for new players and also players that have been here for a while, the game just feels like it reached a state where there's nothing to do. And one of the biggest examples of that is that we just lost Sitin. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the biggest YouTubers in 7 Deadly Sins Origin, and he just quit the game. Not only does the game lack content, but also the fact that it's tied up to keys and you only have 50 per day, which is basically 2 runs of a big content and 2 small ones or 1 small one, just makes the game really unattractive overall. Not only that, but the way you acquire resources feels super passive. You can just grab herbs here, gather there, but at the end of the day, then it's just that. You don't need to do anything else. You're just gathering for the sake of having them, and also the fact that they're super limited in the resources that they give, especially the platinum. Even the devs themselves have said that the platinum has been super low and that they've known from launch, but even then they did nothing to change it, and that feels just super predatory because, as you know or may not know, you can get platinum from the shop, from the store with loyalty points, which basically just rewards whales even more. Adding to that the fact that with the new update they tried, emphasis on tried, to make perfect engravings more accessible to players without rerolling every single time, like without crafting a new set every single time, which they failed miserably, then it just feels like they're here to cash grab and get away with it easily without anyone complaining. And since we're talking about resources, let's talk about the gacha system as well. You have around 50k star fragments scattered around the map to complete with your story and exploration, etc. But after that, there's really not a lot to do. Not a lot of ways for free-to-play players to get star fragments. The events are honestly not very generous as well as of now. You can get like 800 star fragments per event, which, don't get me wrong, it's okay, but it's not amazing because we don't have a lot of events, let's be honest. And then that leads me to a second point. A lot of players are playing the game because they want the original characters from the 7 Deadly Sins. They want to play with the 7 Deadly Sins characters, Meliodas, Escanor, Ban, Gauther, whatever. You name it. The players have been playing because they want to play with the characters that they've seen in the anime. And that's not a bad thing. The bad thing about this is the fact that they're doing original characters to the game that are basically a must pull in case you don't want to break your account or in case you want faster progression, which is the case of Daisy, for example. It's basically a must pull, not only for her support capabilities, but also for an adventurer skill, which basically gives you an extra 70 platinum give or take at the end of each month. And my concern is that this will go through with other original characters, which makes the common free-to-play player unable to pull for the characters that he really wants, like the 7 Deadly Sins, as I've just mentioned. The gacha system in itself is also not very good, although the devs have changed the PT system to actually go through from banner to banner. The 120 PT that you get for specific characters on top, it's tied to the character in specific. So let's say you pulled on Escanor banner like 100 times because you lost the 50-50 and you had 20 leftover pulls. Now, when Clotho released, you would still go back to 0 instead of the 20 pulls that you would need otherwise to get Escanor. You would still need 120 to get Clotho. Obviously, you already have 20 PT left over and you will get the guaranteed 50-50 win, but it just feels like it's there to grab some extra pulls from the players because it just doesn't go through to another character. It's like, it's basically telling the players, oh, you missed the 50-50, then you can maybe buy a little bit of our packs or bundles in the shop and you can get this extra 60 pulls to reach the character that you wanted. And that leads me to my next point, which is I don't think the community is worried about the game in itself. I think the community is worried about who's behind the game, Netmarble. For me, that's personally the biggest reason the community is worried about the game. Netmarble, as some of you know, has had an history with not being very good at dealing with the games. They had some NFT controversies a while ago, but they've been doing better in recent years. I think Solo Leveling Arise was a good game. I played it for a while. It didn't feel predatory at the start. I don't know the state of it now, but I have a friend who's playing regularly and he likes the game still, so not everything is bad. They also know how to do things properly. They also have Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross, which has had a lot of updates over the past years. They had some collaborations as well, recently with ReZero, if I'm not mistaken. And one thing or not, that also brings more players to the game and invites more people to try it out. And I'm not saying Seven Deadly Sins Origin needs a collaboration. It's still a game that has barely launched, but still, it's already feeling so stale, and that's worrying. I just hope Netmarble has learned from their past and actually improves towards making the game playable and better and listens to the community. The last topic I wanted to mention in this video is the optimization. A lot of players with low-end to mid-end PCs have been struggling with optimization, and don't get me started on cell phones. Like, the fact that the game is available for mobile should be a big plus in terms of player base, but players can barely run it on mobile. The recommended specs are minimum an iPhone 13 or a Galaxy S23, which is mind-blowing. We're in 2026, people value optimization a lot. Personally, I'll speak in behalf of myself. I haven't played a lot of WoWa. WoWa is a game where I invested like 500 hours or so, and I loved the game, but I just couldn't deal with the bad optimizations anymore. I don't have the best PC in the world, but I have a decent PC. I have a mid-end PC, and the fact that it's not only taking like 160 gigabytes to have WoWa installed on my SSD, but it would still only run at around like the 60 FPS that they allow us to, is something that just made me not want to play the game anymore, and I uninstalled it recently. Compare it, for example, to Neverness to Everness, and I'm not saying one game is better than another, but Neverness to Everness has just had an amazing optimization overall since the start. I haven't had any issues with it. I have it installed on an HDD and it's running perfectly smoothly. Obviously, sometimes to load one thing or another, it still takes a while, but it's nothing more than like 2-3 seconds extra, which personally, for a game installed on an HDD, which is from like 2010, my HDD, it's perfect. I don't care. So people really value optimization a lot in these upcoming years, these recent years, and even in the future. And honestly, with, for example, Ananta coming out this year as well, this game really needs to step the game up. Not to mention the amount of crashes that people have reported, which is just annoying. I don't want to go into a dungeon and crash when I'm almost beating the boss and then have to redo it all over again. And obviously I mentioned the combat and the mounts, etc., but even that sometimes feels a bit predatory, especially the mounts, because there's mounts in the game that you can only get either by paying or getting the Radiant Potions. Yes, they've been giving more Radiant Potions lately, but it's still a 15% chance sometimes or even less to capture the mount, and a lot of players feel frustrated because they can't get the mounts that they want. The combat itself was good at the start, and it still is. I kind of like the combat, I'm not gonna lie. I like the fact that the HP bar is joined between all the characters, etc. But even though the game just launched, it already feels like it's power crept. Meliodas, obviously, it's still the best DPS in the game, and that's good because it was the first character to release. But then we have an issue with Escanor, which is completely mid, and he also got nerfed after launching, after the banner is over. That for me is completely crazy. They knew that they wanted to nerf the character, they knew that the description was wrong or that it was applying the effects wrong, but they waited until the banner was over to nerf the character so people would pull on it. I don't even know how that's not a massive outrage in the community right now. I'm gonna be honest, that should be completely mind blowing for everyone. Like, it shouldn't be even allowed legally. And I guarantee if the character was completely down tuned, they would instantly buff it during the banner so people would pull more. I think these conversations are a bit awkward and uncomfortable to have, but I think they're necessary because Netmarble really has to start listening to the community a bit more, just swallow their pride and actually make the changes needed to make the game enjoyable and not lose more players and more content creators as they've been doing in the past. People don't criticize the game because they don't want it to succeed, because they don't care about the game. It's the opposite. People criticize the game because they want it to be better. We have reached the point where even their official page on Twitter took ages to comment on the Galland update, etc. They tweeted it like 1 or 2 days ago when Galland released nearly a month ago. And it deeply saddens me that I have to have this conversation because I still think Seven Deadly Sins is a game with amazing potential, but the game doesn't need hype anymore. The game needs trust. And now, whether Netmarble can actually give that trust to the player base is probably what will decide the future of the game. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments about the current state of the game of Seven Deadly Sins Origin and Netmarble and the entire situation behind this all. And remember, the problem isn't that people hate Seven Deadly Sins Origin. The problem is that people are scared the game won't even reach its full potential before losing its player base.